A warm welcome and heartfelt thank you to all our Infidelity Tales Lab viewers. You make these stories worth sharing. We'd love to know which country or city are you watching from today. Let us know below. Now let's dive into today's story. Byron Sharp's footsteps echoed through his mother's marble-floored foyer, each step measured and deliberate. The familiar scent of Chanel No. 5 mixed with fresh-cut roses announced Stella Sharp's presence before he saw her. Family photos lined the walls of the living room, carefully curated moments of false perfection that now made his stomach turn. Really, Byron, you're being absolutely ridiculous about this whole situation. Stella Sharp's voice carried that particular tone of maternal disappointment she'd perfected over 6 decades. She adjusted her Hermes scarf with practiced precision, her French manicured nails catching the light from the crystal chandelier above. One incident with your cousin shouldn't end 15 years of marriage. Byron's jaw tightened as he watched his wife, Jenna, sprawl across the imported Italian sofa like she owned it. Her Louboutin heels pressed against the arm of the chair, a deliberate show of disrespect she knew would irritate Stella, yet his mother said nothing. The double standard was glaring. One incident, Byron's voice remained steady, controlled. Is that what Mason told you? Don't take that tone with me, Stella snapped, moving to stand beside Jenna in a clear display of allegiance. Mason made a mistake. Jenna made a mistake. These things happen in marriages, and you're acting like a child about it. A mistake implies a single occurrence, Mother. Byron pulled out his phone, thumb hovering over the video player. Would you like to see 6 months of mistakes? Jenna's posture shifted slightly, but her smirk remained. Go ahead, show her. Your mother knows all about unhappy marriages and seeking comfort elsewhere. Don't you, Stella? The older woman's cheeks flushed, but she maintained her rigid stance. That's quite enough. Byron, you have responsibilities. The children dashed. Don't. Byron's voice cut through the room like a blade. Don't you dare use my children as leverage. Jenna sat up straighter, her designer dress rustling against the leather. Mason is better than you in every way that matters, she declared, twirling her wedding ring with theatrical flair. At least he knows how to satisfy a woman. But I'm still here, aren't I? You should be grateful. Listen to your mother, or you could say goodbye to Emma, Lucas, and Sophie forever. The threat hung in the air like poison gas. Byron felt something crystallize in his chest, cold, hard, and absolute. He'd navigated hostile takeovers at Sharp Technologies, outmaneuvered corporate spies, and survived betrayals in the boardroom. But this was personal. Is it your final position? He asked quietly. Oh, for heaven's sake, Stella interrupted. Byron, you're the CEO of Sharp Technologies. Think about the scandal. Think about your position. One night of indiscretion dashed. 6 months, Byron corrected. 6 months of meetings at my lake house. Did you know about those, Mother? Did you know they were using my wine cellar for their rendezvous? Stella's slight pause told him everything. 3 weeks earlier, the truth had begun unraveling during what should have been a routine security system upgrade. Byron had noticed the missing wines first, rare vintages he'd collected over years. The newly installed cameras revealed far more than simple theft. Ryan Wyatt sat across from Byron in the secure conference room at Sharp Technologies, his laptop displaying multiple video feeds. As head of security, Ryan had seen his share of corporate espionage, but this was different. Personal. Play it again, Byron commanded, his expression unreadable. The footage showed Jenna entering the lake house, checking her reflection in the hallway mirror. Minutes later, Mason arrived. Their greeting was far too familiar, too practiced. There's more, Ryan said, his voice grim. The financial audit you requested? We found something interesting. He pulled up a series of spreadsheets. They created a shell company, Mason Sharp Consulting. Been siphoning funds for months. Look at the dates. Byron studied the numbers, his analytical mind fitting pieces together. The timing coincides with Mother's new estate planning. That's not all. Ryan hesitated. We found a cloud drive. There are documents. Allegations. They've been building a case, Byron. False abuse claims, manufactured evidence, witness statements from your mother's social circle. They're planning to use your history of childhood therapy against you. Byron's fingers drummed against the mahogany table. Mother's influence, with the family court judges. Judge Warren Choi specifically, Ryan confirmed. Your mother's golf partner. The plan seems to be to ensure Jenna gets full custody. The offshore accounts are already set up. The CEO of Sharp Technologies leaned back, his mind already formulating counter-strategies. Who else knows about this? Just my most trusted team. Garcia in IT, Thompson in financial forensics. No one else. Keep it that way. Byron stood, straightening his suit jacket. I need everything documented. Every video, every transaction, every communication. Triple redundancy on secure servers. Ryan nodded, then asked carefully, the children? Priority 1, Byron stated. Give me everything on the best schools in Denver. Property listings 2, high-security buildings. And Ryan? Have Garcia monitor all communication between Jenna, Mason, and my mother. I want to know every move they make. Later that week, Byron sat in his sister Toni Cole's kitchen, watching her review the evidence he'd gathered. Her hands shook slightly as she read the fabricated abuse allegations. That bitch, Toni whispered. I knew something was off when she tried to convince me you were unstable. Started bringing up our childhood, twisting everything. She looked up at her brother. What do you need? A cover story. I'm opening a new branch in Denver. I need you to handle the preliminary setup, schools, housing, everything. Make it look like a standard corporate expansion. Tony's eyes narrowed. You're planning to take the kids and run? Not run, Byron corrected. Strategically relocate. With full documentation of their mother's criminal activities and conspiracy to commit fraud. Mom will fight you on this. Mother lost the right to any input when she helped them set up offshore accounts for my own money. Byron's voice was steel. Are you with me? Tony reached across the table, gripping his hand. Always, little brother. Those kids deserve better than a mother who'd use them as pawns. The next 2 weeks moved like a corporate takeover, methodical, precise, each step carefully documented. Byron arranged new schools for Emma, Lucas, and Sophie, ensuring their transcripts would transfer smoothly. The house in Denver was purchased through a series of legitimate business transactions. Its security system, a state-of-the-art masterpiece. He watched Jenna at breakfast each morning, noting how she checked her phone constantly, unaware that every message to Mason was being logged. She played with the children, helped with homework, maintained the facade of devoted mother while plotting their removal from his life. Emma, his 12-year-old, noticed the tension. She had her father's insight, catching the subtle shifts in family dynamics. Lucas, 10 and already showing signs of his father's technological aptitude, remained absorbed in his coding projects. 7-year-old Sophie continued to fill the house with artwork, blissfully unaware of the storm brewing. One evening, as Byron reviewed the latest documentation from Ryan, Sophie wandered into his home office. Daddy, she clutched her favorite stuffed giraffe. Are you and Mommy fighting? Byron set aside his tablet, lifting his daughter onto his lap. Sometimes adults have disagreements, sweetheart. But I promise you, everything I do is to protect you, Lucas, and Emma. Like a superhero? He smiled, the first genuine one in weeks. Something like that. How would you feel about a new adventure? A new house, maybe one with a pool? Sophie's eyes lit up. Really? Can Mr. Spots have his own room? She held up the giraffe. Mr. Spots can have whatever he wants. Byron hugged her close, inhaling the sweet scent of her shampoo. We just have to keep it a secret for now, okay? Like a surprise party. I'm good at secrets, Sophie declared proudly. Later that night, Byron received a text from Ryan. Final documentation secured. Judge Choi's previous cases involving your mother found the connection. Garcia intercepted emails about emergency custody orders. They're planning to move soon. Byron smiled in the darkness of his study. They thought they were the predators, using his mother's influence and their manufactured evidence to strip him of everything that mattered. They hadn't counted on facing a man who'd built an empire by anticipating his opponent's moves. Let them plot in country clubs and wine cellars. He'd learned long ago that the most dangerous man in any room was the one who smiled while his enemies celebrated their imagined victory. Tomorrow, Jenna and his mother would have their weekly dinner at the Metropolitan Club. Tomorrow, while they clinked glasses and refined their schemes, the Sharp children would board a private jet to their new life. A life free from manipulation, where truth, sharp and clean as a surgeon's blade, would cut away the cancer of betrayal. Byron closed his laptop, the final pieces of his counter-strategy falling into place. In the game of corporate acquisitions, timing was everything. In the protection of his children, timing was the only thing. The family photos on his desk caught his eye, moments frozen in time, before the facade cracked. He turned them face down, one by one, leaving only a single frame upright. His 3 children at the lake house last summer, their smiles genuine, their futures still untainted by adult betrayals. Game on, he whispered to the empty room. In his mother's elegantly appointed living room, Byron refocused on the present moment. Jenna was still smirking, his mother still radiating disapproval, both so confident in their power over him. They had no idea that their weapons, threats of custody battles, judicial influence, manufactured evidence, were already neutralized. Well, Stella demanded, are you going to be reasonable about this? Byron straightened his tie, a gesture that had become his trademark before closing major business deals. I think we're done here. He turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and Jenna? You might want to check the vintage on that wine you and Mason have been enjoying. The 82 Bordeaux you opened last week? It was a fake. I switched the real ones out months ago. The flash of rage that crossed Jenna's face was almost worth the price of the wine. Almost. As Byron walked out of his mother's house, his phone buzzed with a message from Ryan. Denver property secured. Schools processed transfer paperwork. Jet fueled and ready. Operation Sharp Truth is go. Tomorrow couldn't come fast enough. The Metropolitan Club's valet recognized Jenna Sharp's Tesla, offering a practice smile as she handed over her keys. Inside, Stella Sharp already occupied their usual Thursday table, martini in hand. The crystal chandelier cast dancing shadows across the white tablecloth as Jenna slid into her seat. Byron's being difficult, Stella announced, signaling the waiter for Jenna's usual champagne. But he'll come around. He always does. Neither woman noticed the discreet camera in the corner, recently upgraded by Sharp Technology security team. Neither suspected that their weekly strategy session was being monitored by Ryan Wyatt's most trusted personnel. Across town, Byron Sharp's private jet waited on the tarmac. Captain James Miller, a decade-long employee of Sharp Technologies, reviewed the flight plan that wouldn't be filed until they were safely in the air. The cabin crew had been handpicked and vetted by Ryan personally. Byron's Tesla pulled up to the private terminal, 3 excited children tumbling out. Emma, her 12-year-old composure slipping just slightly, helped Sophie with her backpack while Lucas clutched his tablet. Dad, is this really about the new office? Emma asked, her sharp eyes catching the extra security personnel Ryan had stationed around the perimeter. Byron knelt to her level, maintaining eye contact. What did I teach you about business expansion? Always verify your intelligence before making a move, she recited, a small smile playing at her lips. Exactly. Byron squeezed her shoulder. Sometimes the best moves aren't the most obvious ones. Sophie bounced past them, her stuffed giraffe swinging wildly. Dad! Dad! Does the new house really have a pool? Can Mr. Spots learn to swim? The house has everything we need, Byron assured her, catching Lucas's knowing look. His son had been unusually quiet lately, observing the tension with their mother's increasingly erratic behavior. As they boarded, Ryan's voice came through Byron's earpiece. Jenna and your mother just ordered appetizers. Garcia's monitoring their phones. No suspicions yet. Acknowledged. Byron guided his children up the jet stairs. Status on the Denver team? Movers are in position. Security systems active. Tony's flight lands an hour after yours. Inside the cabin, Sophie claimed a window seat, pressing her face against the glass. Look, we're so high up already. We haven't taken off yet, silly, Lucas corrected, but his usual eye roll carried a hint of affection. He settled into his seat, pulling up research about his new school's robotics program. Emma watched their father stow their carry-ons, her expression thoughtful. Mom usually comes on family trips, she observed carefully. Byron met his daughter's gaze. Sometimes protecting family means making hard decisions. Like when you moved my trust fund last month? A flash of pride crossed Byron's face. Of course she'd noticed. Exactly like that. Captain Miller's voice came over the intercom. "Mr. Sharp, we're cleared for takeoff. Weather in Denver looks perfect." The jet lifted smoothly into the evening sky, banking west. Sophie squealed with delight as the city shrank beneath them, while Lucas finally looked up from his tablet to watch the sunset paint the clouds in gold. Back at the Metropolitan Club, Jenna's phone buzzed. A text from Mason. "Everything's set with Judge Choi." She typed back quickly. "Mother handled it. Emergency custody order ready when needed. Byron won't know what hit him." Stella sipped her third martini, satisfaction evident in her smile. "I spoke with Warren this morning. Such a dear friend, always willing to help family." Neither woman noticed their waiter, recently hired through a Sharp Technologies shell company, photographing their conversation with a hidden camera. In Denver, a convoy of moving trucks pulled up to a gated estate. The security team, handpicked by Ryan, began their preparations. In a separate car, Tony Sharp Cole reviewed the final documentation on her tablet. Every transaction, every conversation, every piece of evidence, triple backed up and ready. The jet cruised at altitude, the cabin quiet except for Sophie's occasional excited whispers to Mr. Spots about their adventure. Lucas had finally found details about the Denver school's advanced programming curriculum, his eyes lighting up at the possibilities. Emma moved to sit beside her father. "Dad, remember when Mom said Aunt Tony was dangerous?" Byron nodded, remembering the day Jenna had tried to cut his sister out of their lives, right after Tony had noticed something odd about Mason's consulting invoices. "She lied about that, didn't she?" Emma's voice carried a weight beyond her years. "Like she lies about where she goes on Thursdays. What made you notice her Thursday schedule?" Emma shrugged. "She always comes home smelling like Mason's cologne, and she deletes her text messages right after." Byron squeezed his daughter's hand. She had his instincts for pattern recognition, both a blessing and a curse in times like these. At 9:47 p.m., just as the jet was beginning its descent into Denver, Jenna's first call came through. Byron watched his phone light up as Sophie dozed against his shoulder. The voicemail notification blinked. "You think you can take my children? My lawyer will destroy you. Your mother's already calling the judge." Emma, still awake, caught the flash of the screen. "Is Mom mad about our surprise trip?" "She's mad about a lot of things," Byron replied honestly. "But being mad doesn't make her right." The jet touched down smoothly, taxiing to a private hangar where 3 black SUVs waited. Ryan's Denver team stood ready, professionally dressed and alert. The children barely noticed the extra security, tired from the excitement of the flight. "Dad," Lucas called out, suddenly animated. "The robotics lab here has a 3D printer. Can I join right away?" "First day of school," Byron promised, guiding them toward the vehicles. They pulled up to their new home just as the movers were finishing. Sophie had fallen asleep, clutching Mr. Spots. Lucas managed to stay awake long enough to verify his gaming setup had made the journey before crashing on his new bed. Emma lingered, watching the security team do their final checks. "They're not really here for the corporate expansion, are they?" she asked quietly. Before Byron could answer, his phone lit up with another call from Jenna. This time, a text followed. "Mason's talking to the board right now. You're finished?" What Jenna didn't know was that Judge Warren Choi had received an interesting package that morning. Documentation of every case where Stella's friendly golf games had influenced his decisions. His hasty recusal from all Sharp family matters had been immediate. Tony arrived as the children explored their rooms, taking a different flight to maintain operational security. Her expression was grim as she entered Byron's new study. "Mason's making threats about the board," she reported, "but Gabriella Patton's team has the shareholders locked down. The evidence of his embezzlement is too strong." Byron nodded, reviewing the security feeds, showing his children settling into their new spaces. "And Mother?" "Still at the club with Jenna. They haven't noticed yet." The quiet of the Denver night was broken by an urgent text message. Byron's phone lit up. "Mom's in ICU. Massive stroke. She's asking for the kids. Please, Byron. It might be her last chance." Tony's phone buzzed moments later with confirmation from her contact at Denver General's sister hospital. Stella Sharp had indeed suffered a stroke, likely triggered by discovering her carefully laid plans had crumbled. "They'll use this to paint you as cruel," Ryan warned during their secure video call. Denying a grandmother's last wish, it'll play badly in court. Byron studied the hospital's security feed, accessed through a college friend in IT. There was Stella indeed in ICU, but also Jenna and Mason, huddled with their lawyer in the waiting room. The setup was obvious. Get the children to the hospital, create a scene, have local officers enforce emergency custody orders they'd undoubtedly prepared. Dad? Byron turned to find Emma in the doorway, her young face too serious in the study's dim light. Is Grandma really dying? The security feed showed Jenna pacing the hospital corridor, phone pressed to her ear. Mason stood with their lawyer, documents spread across a waiting room table. Stella's room was surrounded by uniformed officers, a trap waiting to be sprung. Byron faced his daughter, knowing his response would shape not just the night's events, but his children's understanding of love, truth, and family loyalty. The Denver mountains loomed dark against the star-filled sky, silent witnesses to a family's transformation. In the new house, Sophie clutched Mr. Spots in her sleep, Lucas's laptop glowed with robotics research, and Emma waited for her father's answer. Truth, Byron had learned, was the sharpest weapon in any arsenal. The question now was how to wield it without cutting those he sought to protect. Byron studied Emma's face in the dim light of his study, her question about her grandmother hanging in the air. The hospital security feed on his monitor showed the trap laid out in perfect clarity. Jenna and Mason with their lawyer, uniformed officers stationed strategically, all waiting to spring their carefully orchestrated scene. "Come here, sweetheart," Byron said, gesturing to the leather couch. He pressed the intercom button. "Lucas, Sophie, could you join us in my study?" Lucas appeared first, tablet still in hand, followed by Sophie clutching Mr. Spots. They settled onto the couch, Sophie curling against Emma's side. Byron turned his laptop so they could all see the hospital feed. "I'm going to tell you something important, and I need you to listen carefully." He met each child's eyes in turn. "Grandma is sick. She had a stroke, which is very serious. Should we go see her?" Sophie asked, hugging her giraffe tighter. "Look at this feed first," Byron directed gently. "See Mom and Cousin Mason there? Notice something?" Emma leaned forward, her analytical mind so similar to her father's processing the scene. "They're not crying. They're not even worried. They're planning something." "Exactly." Byron pulled up a carefully curated selection of text messages and photos. Sometimes adults try to use emotions to manipulate others, even children. "What do you see here?" Emma's eyes widened as she read. "Like when Mom said we couldn't see Aunt Tony anymore because she was dangerous. But that wasn't true. Aunt Tony caught her with Cousin Mason, didn't she?" Lucas looked up from the screen, his face hardening with understanding. "They're trying to trick us into going to the hospital?" "Yes." Byron watched Sophie's confusion, measuring his next words. "Remember when we talked about how some people use lies to get what they want?" Sophie nodded solemnly. "Like when Tommy at school said he'd be my friend if I gave him my lunch money. Similar concept, bigger stakes." Byron pulled up another window, showing the officers positioned in the hospital corridors. "They're waiting to create a scene, to use Grandma's condition to hurt our family. But she's really sick?" Emma pressed. "Yes, she is, and we'll handle that appropriately." Byron's voice carried the same tone he used in board meetings when setting non-negotiable terms. "I'll arrange a video call with Grandma, but we'll do it safely, without anyone using it to hurt our family further." The next morning, Byron's network proved its worth. His hospital contacts arranged a supervised video call with Stella's ICU room. Dr. Corinne Olson, their new therapist, sat with them, while Denver's Family Services Department monitored the call, documenting everything. The large screen in Byron's home office flickered to life. Stella lay in her hospital bed, perfectly positioned to appear frail, yet somehow maintaining her manipulative presence. "My darlings," she began, voice trembling perfectly. "Grandma needs you here. Your mother misses you so much. Your father is being cruel." Emma sat straighter, her young shoulders squared. "Grandma, we saw the videos of you helping Mom and Mason steal from Dad's company. That's why you're really upset, isn't it? Because you got caught." In the hospital room, Stella's carefully crafted expression faltered. Lucas, typically quiet, found his voice. You told Mom to say, "Dad hurt us. We heard you on the recordings." "That was really mean, Grandma." Sophie, not fully understanding the complexities but grasping the core truth, added her piece. "You're not supposed to tell lies to hurt people. That's what Dr. Corinne says." The monitor showed Stella's blood pressure spiking, forcing the medical team to intervene and end the call. Through the hospital security feed, they watched Jenna and Mason in the waiting room, their faces twisted with rage as their carefully constructed plan crumbled. Dr. Olson made notes throughout the entire exchange. "The children's awareness and articulation of the manipulation attempts will be crucial documentation," she said quietly to Byron. In the waiting room, Jenna's mask finally cracked. The security feed captured her throwing a water pitcher across the room. "Those brats were supposed to cry for their grandmother," she snarled at Mason. "This is your fault. You said Byron would be too weak to fight back." Mason's response was lost as he kicked a chair, but the family services representative watched with particular interest. Documenting their reaction to the children's statements, she noted professionally, "This adds another layer to our assessment." Over the next 6 months, Byron orchestrated the complete dismantling of his opponent's schemes with the same precision he applied to corporate takeovers. The divorce proceedings became a masterclass in strategic warfare. Byron's legal team presented irrefutable evidence of Jenna and Mason's financial crimes. Sharp Technologies board, faced with proof of embezzlement that could have destabilized the company, fired Mason and initiated criminal charges. Jenna's carefully crafted image as a victim shattered when the recordings of her threats went public. The country club set she'd so carefully cultivated turned their backs, particularly after hearing her candid opinions of them in the Lake House recordings. "You really recorded everything?" Tony asked over dinner one evening, after another successful court hearing. "Everything," Byron confirmed, checking the security feed showing his children doing homework in the next room. The wine cellar cameras caught more than their affair. They discussed every aspect of their plans there, thinking it was their safe space. Stella's recovery from the stroke proved easier than her social recovery. Her country club friends, many of whom had suffered from her manipulations over the years, distanced themselves. The hospital incident, rather than garnering sympathy, exposed decades of emotional exploitation. The children, meanwhile, thrived in their new environment. Emma joined her school's debate team, channeling her understanding of truth and deception into powerful arguments. Lucas found his place in the robotics club, their state championship trophy sitting proudly on his desk. Sophie's art therapy sessions produced increasingly bright paintings, the dark colors of their past life absent from her new works. Dr. Olson's reports documented their progress. The children show remarkable resilience, largely due to their father's transparent handling of the situation. By treating them as capable of understanding complex truths, he's helped them process their mother's betrayal in healthy ways. Jenna's monthly supervised video calls became increasingly strained. Emma would sit ramrod straight, answering in clipped sentences. Lucas often brought his robotics work, responding without looking up. Sophie would draw during the calls, her artwork saying more than words. "She's not even trying to understand us," Emma observed after one particularly tense call. "She just keeps saying we're being cruel like Grandma did." Mason faced criminal charges for embezzlement, his arrogance finally meeting its match in a federal prosecutor who'd built her career on white-collar crime. His attempts to blame Byron backfired when the evidence showed years of systematic theft. Stella, humbled by her reduced circumstances, sent occasional cards that Byron placed unopened in a file marked legal evidence. Her social circle's dissolution hit harder than the stroke's physical effects. The hospital incident, instead of painting Byron as cruel, exposed her pattern of emotional manipulation to her last remaining defenders. The Denver house became more than a refuge. It became a home. The security systems, while state-of-the-art, blended seamlessly into the background. The children's laughter echoed through hallways no longer filled with tension. "Dad," Emma said one evening, watching a sunset paint the mountains in brilliant colors. "Remember when you showed us those security videos? That was the first time an adult treated us like we could handle the truth." Byron smiled, remembering his decision in that crucial moment. Sometimes the hardest truth is better than the kindest lie. Lucas, looking up from his latest robotics project, nodded. Like when you explained about Mom and Mason trying to take the company's money. Other adults would have just said they were having problems. Truth doesn't need fancy wrapping, Byron agreed, watching Sophie arrange her art supplies. Her latest painting showed their family, just the four of them, with Aunt Tony and Uncle Ryan's family nearby. No space remained for those who'd tried to destroy them. The grandfather clock in the hall, a new purchase, untainted by past associations, chimed softly. Through the window, the Denver skyline glittered like stars brought to earth. Byron looked at his family, redefined but stronger, and knew that running hadn't been an escape, but a strategic advance towards something better. A message lit up his phone. I understand now. I'm sorry. Stella. He marked it red, but didn't respond. Some bridges, once burned, should stay crossed only by acknowledgement of why they fell. As Sophie convinced everyone to play her new board game, Byron watched his children's easy laughter, their trust in each other and in him. They'd learned that family wasn't about blood or names or social standing. It was about choices, truth, and the courage to protect what matters most. The Sharp family began building new traditions that evening, their foundation no longer rooted in manipulation and deceit, but in the bedrock of honest love and earned trust. Through the window, the Denver mountains stood as silent guardians of their fresh start. The sharpest truth, Byron often told his children, is that love shouldn't need lies to survive. In their new life, surrounded by honest laughter and genuine affection, they proved this principle every day. In his study later that night, Byron reviewed the final security reports. Jenna's attempts to access the children's school records blocked. Mason's last appeal denied. Stella's social calendar empty. The elaborate trap they'd set, using his own mother's manipulation as their primary weapon, had become the instrument of their downfall. Emma knocked softly, entering with her debate tournament schedule. Dad, can you help me practice my argument about ethical decision-making? Byron closed the security feeds and turned to his daughter. In her determined expression, he saw the future, strong, clear-eyed, unafraid of truth. They had escaped more than a toxic marriage. They had broken free from generations of manipulation. The display of family photos on his desk now showed genuine moments. Sophie's art show, Lucas's robotics victory, Emma's debate championship. No staged portraits, no forced smiles. Just truth, sharp and clean as mountain air. The sharpest truth had cut away the cancer of deceit, leaving behind something stronger, something real. In the end, that made all the difference. Epilogue. 5 years later. The Denver skyline had changed in the past 5 years, new towers reaching toward the mountains that remained eternally constant. Byron Sharp stood at his office window on the 42nd floor of the newly constructed Sharp Technologies headquarters, reviewing a familiar quarterly report on his tablet. Mason Sharp's parole hearing had been denied. Again, 3 years into a 7-year sentence for corporate fraud, Ryan Wyatt noted, settling into one of the leather chairs across from Byron's desk. As chief security officer of Sharp Technologies' now renowned cybersecurity division, he'd overseen the case's documentation from start to finish. The federal prosecutor says he's still blaming everyone but himself. Some patterns never change, Byron remarked, setting the tablet aside. How's the new security system rollout? Ahead of schedule. Emma's input on the user interface design was surprisingly helpful. Byron smiled. His eldest, now 17, had inherited more than his analytical mind. Her summer internship in the company's development department had produced several innovative suggestions that the senior engineers had immediately adopted. She's presenting at the Young Entrepreneurs Conference next month, Byron said, pride evident in his voice. Her paper on ethical corporate governance caught the selection committee's attention. The view from his office included the private school where Sophie, now 12, had just won her second art competition. Her latest series, titled Truth in Colors, had earned a scholarship to an exclusive summer art program. The darkness that had shadowed her early works after their escape had long since given way to vibrant expressions of joy. Lucas, 15, had transformed his robotics obsession into genuine innovation. His team's AI-driven security protocols had won not just state championships, but national recognition. 3 universities had already expressed interest, despite him being 2 years from graduation. Ryan pulled up another report on his tablet. Jenna's latest petition for expanded visitation was denied this morning. Judge Harrison was particularly unimpressed by her continued association with Mason's former legal team. The mention of his ex-wife drew Byron's attention to a news article he'd archived earlier. Jenna's attempt to launch a lifestyle coaching business had imploded spectacularly when her potential clients discovered her history. The carefully crafted image of a wronged woman had never recovered from the evidence Byron's team had released during the divorce. She tried to contact Lucas through social media last week, Byron mentioned. He blocked her account and reported it to Dr. Olson immediately. Smart kid? Ryan nodded. Speaking of social media, did you see Mason's sister's latest post? Apparently, he's still claiming the embezzlement was all Jenna's idea. Honor among thieves? Byron's laugh held no humor. Has Garcia tracked any more attempts to access our systems? 2 last month. Amateur stuff compared to their original schemes. Probably Mason trying to prove something from his prison computer lab time. Ryan checked another notification. Oh, and Stella's latest card arrived at the secure post box. Byron hadn't opened any of his mother's letters in 5 years, but he maintained the file meticulously. Each attempted contact was documented. Each manipulative plea preserved as evidence of patterns unchanged. Stella Sharp's social rehabilitation had never materialized. The stroke's physical effects had healed, but her reputation remained in tatters. Her former friends, many of whom had suffered from her machinations over the decades, had closed ranks permanently. The country club had quietly declined to renew her membership, citing standards of community behavior. The last Byron had heard, she'd moved to a smaller house in Florida, her reduced circumstances a constant reminder of her choices. Her occasional attempts to contact the children through intermediaries were met with the same institutional silence that greeted her letters. A knock at the office door preceded Tony's entrance. His sister, now Sharp Technologies' chief operating officer, carried her own tablet displaying market projections. The Richardson merger is ready for final approval, she announced, then smiled. But that's not why I'm here. Did Emma tell you about her college interviews? Harvard and Yale next week, Byron confirmed. She's considering their joint business and law program. Following in her father's footsteps? Ryan asked. Blazing her own trail, Byron corrected. Her thesis on detecting corporate manipulation strategies has already caught several deans' attention. Tony settled into the other chair. Lucas asked me to review his patent application for the new security algorithm. That boy's mind works in fascinating ways. Nature and nurture, Ryan observed. Speaking of which, my wife says Sophie's been discussing advanced art theory in their sessions. Ryan's wife, Dr. Sarah Wyatt, had taken over the children's therapy from Dr. Olson 2 years ago. Her specialization in art therapy had proven particularly beneficial for Sophie's continued emotional growth. The children's resilience still amazes me, Tony said softly. Remember when we worried about the impact of everything? Byron's mind flashed back to that night in Denver, showing his children the hospital security feeds, trusting them with truth when others would have hidden behind comfortable lies. That decision had set the tone for everything that followed. How's the foundation work going? Ryan asked Tony. The Sharp Truth Foundation, established 3 years ago, provided support and resources to families dealing with parental manipulation and financial abuse. Emma had helped design their youth outreach program, while Lucas contributed to their digital security protocols. We're opening 3 new advocacy centers next month, Tony reported. The waiting list for support services keep growing as more people recognize the patterns in their own families. Byron's phone buzzed with a message from Emma. Dad, Sophie's art teacher called. They want to feature her Family Bond series in the school's centennial exhibition. Can we discuss over dinner? These impromptu family dinners had become a cherished tradition. No matter how busy their schedules grew, they maintained this connection, this space for open discussion and genuine emotion. Mason tried to publish a memoir, Ryan mentioned, checking another alert. His ghostwriter quit after fact-checking the first chapter. Apparently, even professional writers have standards, The news brought no satisfaction to Byron. Mason's continued attempts to rewrite history had become sad echoes of his original arrogance. The former golden boy of the Sharp family now spent his days in a federal prison, his natural charm useless against concrete walls and documented evidence. Jenna's trajectory had followed a similar downward spiral. Her monthly supervised video calls had dwindled to quarterly interactions as the children grew old enough to choose their level of contact. Emma's last conversation with her mother had ended with a clear statement: "Your manipulation doesn't work anymore. We learned to recognize it." The Denver mountains caught the afternoon light, their peaks standing proud against the sky. Byron remembered Sophie's words from her last art show. "Mountains don't pretend to be anything but what they are. That's why they're beautiful." The Tokyo expansion plans are finalized, Tony noted, changing the subject. Their corporate governance policies align perfectly with our transparency requirements. Sharp Technologies had emerged stronger from the crisis, its commitment to ethical operations attracting international partnerships. The security division, born from necessity during their escape, now led the industry in protection against corporate espionage and financial fraud. "Did you see the business school case study?" Ryan asked. "They're using our situation as a template for crisis management and ethical leadership." Byron had approved the case study's publication, with names changed to protect the children's privacy. The academic analysis of his strategic response to personal betrayal now helped other executives recognize and counter similar threats. "Emma's using it in her debate team preparation," Tony added. "Apparently, they're discussing ethical obligations in family businesses this season." The afternoon sun cast long shadows across Byron's desk, touching the frame that held his favorite photograph. Taken at Lucas's last robotics competition, it showed all three children plus Tony's family and the Wyatts, their chosen family bond stronger than any genetic ties. "Family game night still on for Friday?" Ryan asked, standing to leave. These weekly gatherings had expanded to include both families, filling the Sharp home with genuine laughter and trust. Sophie's insisted on testing her new board game design, Byron confirmed. His youngest had combined her artistic talents with Lucas's programming skills to create unique gaming experiences. This latest project incorporated elements of strategy and truth-telling that reflected their family's journey. Later that evening, as Byron drove home through the Denver sunset, he reflected on the 5 years since their escape. The Sharp family name had come to mean something different now. Not power through manipulation, but strength through honesty. Emma's debate trophies lined her study alongside corporate governance textbooks. Lucas's workshop hummed with innovative projects combining technology and trust. Sophie's art studio burst with colors that told stories of healing and hope. The house itself had evolved, each room holding memories of authentic moments. The security systems remained state-of-the-art, but they protected joy now, not secrets. The windows that had once watched for threats now framed mountain views and spectacular sunsets. Pulling into the driveway, Byron spotted Emma helping Sophie set up her latest art installation while Lucas adjusted the lighting program he designed for it. Their easy cooperation, their natural support for each other's pursuits, proved that family bonds could be stronger without manipulation's toxic threads. The evening news would carry stories of Mason's failed parole hearing. Society columns might mention Jenna's latest social fumble or Stella's continued exile. But here, in this home built on sharp truths and sharper wisdom, those names had lost their power to wound. "Dad," Sophie called out, waving him over to see her installation. "I combined Lucas's light patterns with my color theory study." Emma helped with the presentation layout. The piece, titled Unbreakable, captured light and shadow in ways that changed depending on the viewer's perspective. "Like truth," Sophie explained. "It looks different from different angles, but it's always there if you're willing to see it." Inside, dinner preparations were underway. These meals were more than sustenance. They were daily recommitments to honest communication and genuine support. The dining room that had once endured Jenna's subtle cruelties now rang with uninhibited laughter and real conversation. Emma's latest debate strategy, Lucas's new algorithm, Sophie's artistic breakthroughs, all found space at this table. Ryan and Sarah would join them later, bringing updates about the foundation's work and the community's response to their advocacy. Byron's phone held one last notification. Mason's prison account had attempted to transfer funds to an overseas charity. The transaction, like all his previous efforts to rebuild his image, had been blocked by the very security systems his actions had inspired. The sharpest truth, Byron had told his children years ago, is that love shouldn't need lies to survive. Looking at his family now, strong, successful, and genuinely happy, he knew they'd proven that truth beyond any doubt. The Denver mountains stood guard outside their windows, unchanging and honest in their majesty. Like them, the Sharp family had found strength in being exactly what they were. Not perfect, but perfectly truthful. And in that truth, they were free. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.